Hello everyone, this is Lucia Muni with Servant Leaders of the World. And today we have quite a few servant leaders in the studio. Our very own freedom fighter, Bedros Hajian. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining and for co-hosting this event, and it will be aired in 2 languages.
Thank you very much.
Armenian and English, so that we can actually get broader audience, and the message will be very important today. And I can't wait to introduce our guests to our audience, our very inspirational leaders, Amy Bohn, our very inspirational servant leaders, Amy Bohn and Jason Lefkowits.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for accepting our
Great to be
invitation.
here.
Really excited to be here.
Great. So today we're going to talk about the most talked about topic, which is mandatory vaccinations and medical tyranny. And I know you have a lot to tell us about, because you've been the 2 people behind LA's protests and one of the key people who are organizing this protest. So who wants to go first?
Ladies first.
Jason.
No, ladies first.
You don't want to go first? Do you want me to? Okay, I'll go first.
So first of all, how did you get involved in this?
Well, we moved here from Texas several years ago, about 3 years ago. And when we got here, actually it was a huge shock to get to California. And there were just so many things happening at Sacramento that were impacting children, including different bills that were coming down the wire that would kick children out of school based on their medical status. And I didn't realize at that time, but I had an activist heart, and it really just woke me up to get involved, just really from the beginning when I got here in California. California is a whole different place.
Right.
Getting involved with these issues.
Nice. How about you, Jason?
Well, I was a bio major in college, so I always kind of kept my eyes in science. I studied genetics and virology, microbiology, immunology, and I said no to grad school. I was out west, and I've been in LA, and I was working to pay my bills in a restaurant and also doing stand-up comedy and writing. And when the lockdowns happened, I lost all my avenues to make money and put food on my table. So I had to know why. So I did all the research I can get my hands on and watched everything I could watch and realized what was happening and saw the pieces falling right into place and connecting all the dots. And I wasn't going to let that happen. And I'm not going to let that happen.
Exactly. Thank you. So what are you hoping to achieve with this protests that are happening in Los Angeles right now? First of all, is it anti-vaccine protests, or those protests are anti-mandatory vaccination or pro-choice? Like, can you clarify that a little bit for our audience?
I'll go first. So for us, with the protests we're doing, it actually isn't anti-vaccine. It is pro-freedom, pro-choice. It is against the vaccine passport, and this particular issue goes beyond anybody's vaccination status or any of the issues we've seen thus far. It is actually bigger than any one tribe that we could separate ourselves with. So the issue itself brings out, Democrats, Republicans, people in the middle, different races, religions. It is that big of an issue, and so we are definitely not anti-vaccine. It's about choice, and it's about being able to hold the line against a real digital passport that's coming down right now, and building an infrastructure right in front of us. But that infrastructure is also connected to vaccine mandates. So people get confused thinking, oh, this is anti-vaccine, but in reality, it's these mandates that are going hand in hand with creating an infrastructure and a verification system with the vaccine passport.
Սիրելի արնագիցներ, բացատրեմ հայերենով, անոնք որ հայերեն անգլերեն չեն հասկնար, հարցումն էր դուք հագաբատվաստում եք, այս շարժումը հագաբատվաստումի թեմ է, այսինքն պատասխաններ ոչ, հագաբատվաստումի թեմ չէ, այլ ազատության կողմն է։ Ամեն անհատ գրնա որոշել ինքը գուզե պատվաստվել կամ չի պատվաստվել։ Խնդիրը այստեղն է, որ գուզեն որ ամեն ինչ ստիպողական ունել, այսինքն mandatory ունել, եւ անոնք որ չեն պատվաստվել, գուզեն որ այդ անձնավորություններուն բաճել, իրենց կորձեն հանել եւ դարբեր բաներ, որ քիչ ու վերջ ավելի պիտի բացատրվի։ So այս movement-ը ոչ թե հագատ պատվաստում է, որ շատերը գիտեն որ պիտի դարձնեն ադիգա conspiracy theory եւ դարբեր սխալ բաներով, այլ ընդհանրակը անհադի անկախության եւ ազատ ծևի մտածումի կողմն է, որ դա դեմոկրատիայի սկզբունքն է եւ constitution-ն է Ամերիկայի։
So Jason, what is the goal you're trying to achieve with this protests?
Well, the ultimate goal would be to go back to like 2018, you know, when everyone was kind of living free and making their own choices and not worried about illnesses the way we are now, to get the fear out of society, to bring the love back, connect the communities, get rid of all this division and hatred and people not understanding one side or the other. It goes both ways, and really coming together and being a humane society. Everyone talks about unity and acceptance, but nobody's living that way. All they're doing is dividing people by labeling people. Let's get rid of labels and be a humane society.
And America is a capital of freedom, right? I came to America for justice, for freedom, to have rights, and all of a sudden you're facing a situation where your rights could be removed. You won't be able to buy or sell anything without a vaccine passport, without, it's almost like they have divided people into two categories, like two classes, right?
Prophetic word.
Exactly. Those who have the vaccine and those who don't have the vaccine. So that's why maybe you guys left everything and just completely concentrated on this fight to make sure.
You said about 2018, you want to go back. You know what Schwab said? Schwab, that WEF, World Economic Forum leader.
Yes.
Yeah.
He said, people saying we're going to go back like it used to be, it will never happen.
Nope.
They said it.
That's what
they
he
said.
said.
You're right.
Right.
It will never happen. And tyranny will never be voted out of power.
Well, basically, they're deliberately doing it.
So what could happen? My question is, what could happen if that goal of our freedom, maintaining our freedom, is not going to be achieved? What's the scenario there?
We'll fight.
Yeah, I'll be dead.
The scenario is that everything everybody holds dear is going to be taken away from them or put on a switch, meaning that there's someone who controls whether they buy groceries, whether they go to work, what happens when they enter or try to have education, travel. Everything that makes you part of society and accessing society in a free movement, free commerce, all of those things. That's really what at stake here. I don't think people always understand that everything is on the line right now with these vaccine passports combined with the mandates, because that's what it's going to look like if we don't win. That all the things that we love and hold dear, we will be under control to access everything.
Right.
Ուրեմն բացատրությունը դամ եւ որ այս իրենք հաջողին աս բադվաստումի ստիպողականությունը mandatory-ին ամեն ինչ պիտի գործընծնենք վերջի եւ ասիկա separation-ը ավելի ճիշտ է ժողովրդին they separating us basically so մեր անկախությունը պիտի գործընծնենք եւ աստեղ ես կրնամ իմ խոսքը սա մեջ տնել որ անանք որ նույնիսկ պատվաստված են պետք է գոմ չի բռնեն պետք է գոմ բռնեն ազատության գոմը դու եթե պատվաստված ես okay բայց պետք է գոմ բռնես անոնք որ ազատության գոմը կբռնեն որ այսինքն եւ ոչ թե segregating as մարդոց.
Very good point, Petros, John. Very good point. And building up on what you just said, I really want to also urge people who are vaccinated to start joining the movement and coming out to the protest. And I want to talk very few words about the protests that I have actually witnessed, which were organized by you. There are two different protests, right? So, and I attended both, and I know you attended one too. Right. So my experience was you pretty much returned me into 2018. I felt like I went on a time machine, went back, because people were on that grass enjoying their drink, food, whatever they had, with kids, with dogs, with communicating resources. First of all, it was very well organized. And Amy, you did a great job with speakers, with security. Every protest Jason and Amy are having, they're extremely well organized. There's security, there's police officers. as in any protest, as in any gatherings. It's not like that we're expecting something. No, in fact, we're expecting nothing but love, kindness, talking about our rights, kids speakers. We have kids as speakers as well, because it is so inclusive. We had firemen talking.
Oh yeah, we at the protest, and I do have to say too, one of the things that made ours really successful is we united with more than 18 other groups across California. So while yes, PERC was a big part of the protest as an organization and myself as part of the planning, one of the things that was so amazing is the purpose and the message and the issue at hand brought together 18 other organizations and more every day who united to actually pull off this amazing event, which we called SOS California, No Vaccine Passport Rally. And so I couldn't have done it without really, unifying with so many other amazing groups to bring it all together.
Great. And I love the fact that you had booths at the end where people could leave their emails and what they do, so that there's almost like a country inside the country with all these resources. We had everyone there, and people. I met a lady there who runs a kindergarten here in LA, and she's like, I'm not requesting any masks mandates, and I don't request any vaccines. And I'm like, wow, we need to be promoting you, because there are parents who cannot send their kids today to a kindergarten because of that reason. So it's a great community with a lot of resources. And I think maybe it's a good point if you can translate that, because so that Armenians know that it's not just a protest where we, standing there with signs.
Right.
That is too. But it's not just that. It's a lot of information and it's a lot of resources.
Yeah, and organizing.
It's a tribe.
Right. It's a tribe, and we brought. I think with both of our events, we brought everyday people. We brought the firefighters and the teachers and the nurses and the doctors and people in the entertainment industry. And so what was represented across the spectrum of the people who attended these protests were everybody who's being impacted by these policies and health orders and potentially laws coming down on the people. So it was just everyday amazing people there, kids, teachers, all that.
Ուրեմն ամեն տեսակի այդ protest-ներում մեջ ամեն տասագարքի մարդ կա, police department, fire department, բարձ փորձավոր եւ անշուշտ այդտեղ կան կորզադեղեր, որոնք պիտի mandate չի տնեն ժողովրդի վրա, փաստորեն, որոնք պիտի աշխատին ժողովրդի հետ, եթե գրծա հասկացնել ավելի մոդիգեն։ So անդեղը պիտի այդ protest-ներում մեջ կմոտենան, որ ժողովուրդ եւ ժողովրդի տեսակներ, մարդոց տեսակներ, ամեն տասագարքի, փորձ ունեցողներ, բիզնեսմեններ, որոնք թեմ են ասպատվաստումի mandatory-ին, մեկ խոսքով, եթե գրծասկսնեն։ Շատերը կան, որ ուզեն պատվաստվել, ամեն մարդ իր ազատ կամք ունի, այսինքն, ոստեղը այս խումբը ոչ մեկ բան չի փորձել փոխել։ Ազատության կողմն է, այսինքն, մեկ խոսքով։
Yeah, so do you have any information about the vaccine passports, or approximately when they're trying to enforce that, if that will be enforced?
Yeah, I actually have two big things happening on that people really need to know about. The first one is specifically related to LA City. So LA City Council, the city attorney for LA has drafted an ordinance, or is in the process of drafting an ordinance. And what they want to do with that is they want to bring that ordinance to vote, to the city council for a vote. And that ordinance would actually ban people from being able to go into indoor spaces without proof of vaccination, of the COVID vaccine specifically. And when we talk about indoor spaces, we're talking about everywhere, theaters, spas, gyms, restaurants, you name it. So this is not just a policy, it's not just a health order. This would be an ordinance, which is a law on the law books. So it is a very big thing what's happening in LA, LA County, but also LA City. And there's more about the timeline of that for people to understand.
Some people may not understand what is the ordinance. That means people can get incarcerated when they break the law.
Right, it's a law. It's not a policy.
So I want to make clear, people understand, somebody can get incarcerated, arrested for breaking the law or fined.
Right. Or there'll be penalties and enforcement attached. So I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about the timeline really quick about what people should expect.
Sure, we of course, this is information.
Right, so what people need to
Relevant.
expect is this. So the LA City Council, the city attorney did not have the ordinance draft ready for this past week. What that means is they've gotten a lot of feedback from the public. So we need to keep up that pressure from the public on the issue. The business owners, citizens, we need to be flooding the city council with calls, emails, talking about and giving feedback. So they didn't have the ordinance ready for a vote yet. What that means is that it's going to potentially come back for a vote this next week on Tuesday or Wednesday. They'll post the agenda for LA City Council this coming Friday. And if they have a unanimous vote, if the ordinance is ready for vote, then it could be passed as of next week, if the vote is unanimous. But we know of several city councilmen who do not support this ordinance as it is. So they will be dissenting, at least voting no as of right now. And with even one no vote, that pushes the ordinance to be voted again and the next week, the following week, and all that's required is a majority vote on the second time that it's presented. So we're a bare minimum of about 2 weeks away from it potentially being voted on and passed.
This
from
is
what
city
we can
or
tell.
county? City, right?
This is the city council, LA City Council.
Right.
So what do we do? We need to be bugging city council, like calling and emailing. Is that what it is?
Right. So we recommend for people to be calling, emailing, get on Twitter, specifically contact the city attorney and make sure we've got all that contact information we can provide so people can have that. But contact them nonstop. Business owners, this is not a time to be silent. This is a time for every citizen in LA to not be hiding on this issue, but to actually be at the forefront saying that you oppose this ordinance, you do not support it, and really raise the public outcry about it in opposition of it.
Right.
So that's one of the things we also
Let me
recommend.
explain that in
yes, go
Armenian.
ahead. Yeah.
Սիրելի անդագիստներ, մենք այս շաբաթ շատ critical շաբաթի մեջ են անոնք, որ Los Angeles City-ի մեջ կաբրին։ Բայց իրականում Los Angeles City-ին չէ վիան, Los Angeles County-ն ա բերելա վերջը, այս օրենքը, եթե City-ն անցն է։ Ուրեմն իրենք պիտի անցնեն օրենքը, ոչ թե ուրիշ բան օրենք է ասի, ordinance օրենքը սել է, որ պիտի արգելեն ովևէ մեկ դեղ մտնա առանց vaccine քարտի մեկ խոսքով։ Սոադոր համար պետք է բայկարին, որ այդ օրենքը չանցնի։ Եթե հանգարց անցավ այդ օրենքը, հայորավոր, հազարավոր մարդիկ, որոնք պատվաստված չեն, նույնիսկ գերագույն անգամ չի կրնան առնել։ Սա հիշեցեք։ So ինչ պետք է անեն գսվեցա, պետք է հերացանեք ծեր city councilman-ներուն։ Քիշեր եւ ցեկեք, արավոտից իրիգուն։ Email-ներ, ավելի ճիշտը հերացանելով պետք է լա։ Եվ ասեք, որ դուք, որ ընդրեցիք այդ city council-ը, համացան չեք, փաստորեն։
Եվ այդ հեռախոսի համարները եւ email-ները մենք կտեղադրենք
Այո։
սայթերում, որ դուք կարող
I really wish I spoke Armenian. That would be amazing.
Can I add to this?
Absolutely.
So, as someone that likes to make protests and demonstrations, what I suggest we do as a public is after this first vote goes through with the city council, we find out which city council people voted for it, and we show up at their houses. No one gets hurt. We stay on the sidewalk and we protest in front of their houses. The only way these people are going to vote and change their minds is through intimidation. That is exactly what they're doing to us. They're pushing us and pushing us and pushing us. Coercion, telling the news is lying, saying the unvaccinated are spreading diseases. That's never how it's been. And these are the exact same tactics that the Nazis used against the Jews in World War II. And we're seeing the same exact game plan. The only way these people are going to change their mind is if they don't feel safe. Because I don't feel safe anymore. They're making me feel threatened and unsafe. As you were saying with the next steps and what's coming, the FEMA camps, these internment camps, they're hiring people. That means they're built and ready to go. You don't hire a staff for something that's going to occur in a couple years from now. That's intimidation. That's making me and all my friends feel very unsafe. Tyranny has never been voted out of power. It's pushed out of power. And I don't need to physically put my hands on anyone to push. I just need to make them feel as shook as I am, and maybe their soul will return back into their bodies, and they'll understand that this is for the greater good.
You're being very optimistic about the soul.
I can translate that in
the
Armenian.
body.
By all means, please.
Ուրեմն սիրելիներ, կարևոր է որ հասկանանք, այս շաբաթ որ պիտի ընտրությունը լա, պետք է գիտնանք որ մեկ council member-ները այո-սին եւ որ մեկ council member-ները ոչ-սին։ Այո-սողներուն դուներուն արչեւ հազարավոր հոգիներով պետք է երթանք ցույցի ամեն օր։ Եվ պետք է իրենք գիտնան որ մենք իրենց mandatory թշնամական իրենց terroristական սկզբունքը պետք չընդունենք, бид բայկարինք։ Եվ պիտի բայկարինք իրենց դուներուն արչեւ։ Մենք չենք գսեր որ պետք է դուները զարնենք, ոչ։ Հազարավոր մարդիկ պետք է քիշեր ցերեկ իրենց դուներուն արչեւը լա, անոնք որ այո գսեն որ առաջինը։ Երկրորդը հիշեցեք սիրելի հայեր, ես հայերենով պիտի խոսիմ, ճիշտ է անգլերենով պիտի գրնան ուրիշ բան ասել, բայց հայերենով պիտի խոսիմ։ Մենք հայերս շատ լավ գիտենք։ Աթաթուրքը ինչ իրավ հայերին։ Ժամանակին արեմդա Հայաստանի մեջ, Գիլիգյո մեջ հայերեն խոսողին լեզուն կգդրեին։ Եթե գիշեք պատմությունը լավ սիրեցեք։ Հայ ըլլալը միջև 2000 թվական մեղք էր Թուրքիայի մեջ։ Հայերուն ասկանունները փոխեցին։ Այս պիտի նմանի ադոր։ Հայ ըլլալը պիտի լա մեղք, թշնամություն եւ բարդատրական մահ։ Այս պիտի փորձեն անել եւ այս երենց փորձելը։ Եվ հիշեցեք ավելորդ մեկ բան ասեմ, շատ կարեւոր։ Հիմա անոնք որ պատվաստված են եւ գկարձեն որ իրենք ազատած են, շատ սխալ եք, որով սա segregate կնեն որ վաղը պատվաստվածներուն 10 անգամ ավելի պիտի սրսկեն, որ դուք պիտի ընդունեք այն ժամանակ։ Հիմա segregate կնեն որ մենք իրարից բաժնվենք, արթնցեք։
So to build on both of your points, actually, Jason, when you said we need to show up at their houses and intimidate, you know why it's going to work? Because shame is a public emotion.
Yeah.
Guilt is not.
No.
You have to have consciousness for guilt, right? But shame is, so that's going to work. And also another thing, as you mentioned, Jewish Holocaust, Hitler wanted to create a perfect race, and we all know about it. And it was pretty hard to do, right?
Yes.
But creating an imperfect race is much easier, because if you create an imperfect race by majority, the perfect race will be created by default. So what they're trying to do with this mandatory passports, vaccine passports, is to create an imperfect race for those who are going to take it, because they're going to be inferior. And then the perfect race will be the elite that will stay on top. Hitler's plan is accomplished.
And yet they play with it, because in the beginning of that, the unvaccinated are the imperfect race, and the entitled are the vaccinated. They don't realize that the joke is on them, and what they're being pumped with is going to hurt them in the not too distant future.
That's what I said in Armenian.
Yeah.
They're trying right now to segregate, but then they're going to get hurt at the end.
Exactly.
Right.
100%.
And this is why it's so important that we get both vaccinated and non-vaccinated people to come in unity to come and to defend your rights. Vaccination is a choice, same as, you know, when they say my body is a choice. People need to have a choice whether they want to get vaccinated or whether they don't want to get the COVID vaccine.
And Amy answered her question earlier about what her rallies stand for. Mine have been in the news, so let me just kind of clarify a little bit.
Yeah,
I am completely for medical freedom. If you want to take a vaccine, by all means take a vaccine. When I organized the protest at Dodger Stadium, we did not shut the gates. The fire department did. We wanted everybody to make that choice. We came there with just information that maybe you should look into before you take an irreversible injection. That's all we were there to do. We have never been preaching anti-vaccine, regardless of how I personally believe, what I would or would not put into my body. I still feel you should be able to govern your own temple however you see fit. However many vaccines that make you feel safe, by all means, take them. I'm all for medical freedom. I'm not anti anything. I'm anti the passport that segregates, yes. But as far as freedom of choice and how you govern your health, if you want to subscribe to Western medicine and take every pharmaceutical you want, by all means, have all the prescriptions. I would prefer a banana. You can do whatever you like.
Right. What?
Sabor tunazades, uzes hayrurat bat vastum arnel, mekat bat azat uska. ինքը գահավատա medical freedom-ի։ Իսկ ես չեմ հավատար առնելու, պետք է իրար հարկենք մեր խոսքով։ Ինքը չսերգով որ կացեք մի արեք։ Ով որ գուզե թող պատվաստվի, եւ ով չուզեր թող չի պատվաստվի։ Մենք այդ ազատությունը ուզենք որ։
Amy, what is AB 455 bill?
Oh my gosh, this is a big deep breath because if LA City is having people concerned about what's happening there, the whole state of California, and to be frank, the whole country and across the globe should be worried about AB 455 that is just being presented. So what happened at a state level in Sacramento, the California legislative body gutted and amended a bill. And what is happening, it has not passed yet. It has not been presented for a vote, just so people understand the process here. But this bill actually puts into law across the whole state of California that people cannot enter indoor spaces without the COVID vaccine. And we're talking 12-year-olds and up. You can't go into a hotel, in an inn. You can't go to the spa. You can't go to
grocery
the gym.
Store?
Now, they're allowing the exemption of a grocery store. So that should have everybody on high alert that this type of bill could even be presented as an option. It would also, in the bill, would require employers to require their employees to have the COVID shot as well. So there's penalties. I'm still looking into the bill to understand all of the details, but it is an outrageous thing that we are even talking about this in the state of California. And I'll tell you that Governor Newsom said in June, so just a couple of months ago, that he would not be putting forward a vaccine passport. And if you don't understand what a vaccine passport is, this is what it is where it bans people from being able to go into indoor spaces or have free movement in society with restrictions. And they do have a verification system set up through California, through the Department of Public Health, called the Smart Health app. Okay, so people,
code.
yeah. So, in what happens with the Smart Health app is that is made by Microsoft, and it actually is connected to the Commons Pass, which is part of the Commons Project, which is actually sponsored and supported by the World Economic Forum. So it is all the way here in California, and they're trying to pass potentially this law. And people have to understand, like, this particular law and issue, has not passed yet, but it is so big, it should be something that unites every single group out there, vaccinated or unvaccinated. Whatever your religion is, it doesn't matter. Whatever your race is, doesn't matter. This is bigger than any one of us or any one tribe. And if we could be united to an opposition of this particular bill and also what's happening in LA City, we would have a fighting chance, which I actually believe we do have a fighting chance, because I think that what people need is they need to understand what's happening. Most people don't even know that these two things are happening right now. And so if people can be made aware and awake, and then also understand part of the end game, that this vaccine passport is a whole verification system, a digital system that is attached to everything. It's attached to your food, your water, your schooling, your travel, your indoor spaces. This is something that should have every human being at the front line trying to do everything we can to stop it. So that's what's happening.
Ուրեմն սիրելիներ, իմ այսօր California Assembly-ն ներս բիլը ներկայացվեցավ, ասի շատ լուրջ բիլ է, Assembly Bill 455, այսօր առավոտ արդեն լուրեր ելան, որ ներկայացվեցավ այդ բիլը, այս բիլը կներկայացնի, եթե անցնի, պիտի բայկարինք, բայց եթե հանգարց անցնի, ադիգա vaccine passport կսեն, ովևէ մեկը պիտի չի կրնա ովևէ մեկ տեղի երթալ, այսինքն ովևէ մեկ ջաշարան, ովևէ մեկ event, ովևէ մեկ gym, առանց ունենալու այդ passport-ը իր ցերկը, եւ ադիգա թուղթ չէ, դա QR կոդ է, Microsoft-ի միջոցով եղած է ադիգա, որ ես երկար ժամանակ առաջսի իմ Facebook live-ից, որ ասոր գուզեն գորնել, հոկտեմբերին գուզեն գոր ասիգա իրականացնել, ասիգա արդեն ինչ որ գսվեր որ դիգինը նույնը այս հիմա վավերացուց, այսինքն հիմնավորեց Assembly Bill 455, որ այսօր ուժին գործեն որ անցնել, պետք է բայկարինք, բոլորը միացած պետք է բայկարին, որով ասիկա գերտագոր ոչ թե միան locally, ասի գերտագոր միջև internationally։ Այսինքն completely քու իրավունքներդ քու չերկետ գարնեն։ Վաղը միսօր քեզի բիդիսեն քանի հավատ ճուր գրնաս խմել, քանի անգամ ջաշ գրնաս ուդել, հոնդեղը բիտնանին այդ паспортները ադուր հետ կապված է սիրենը։ Սա complete shutdown, complete dictatorship է, complete fascism ասիկա։ Եվ սա unconstitutional է։ Ամերիկայի մեջ մեր անգախ ազատ խոսք ունին եւ մեր նախահայրերը Ամերիկայի մեզ իրավունք տվերեն նույնիսկ զենքով բայկերելու այս բաներու դեմ, որովհետեւ այդ նախահայրերն մեկը ասավ, եթե ամեն ինչ կփորձես, պետք է բայկարես նույնիսկ զենքով։ Այդ իրականությունը constitutional է։ Քիչ մգերեվի maybe I pass my limits, but I had to say it.
You never do, because you're a freedom fighter. We don't pass our limits. We fight for freedom.
So basically, I said if we have to bear arms and fight.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Basically,
We have to announce it.
Right. So basically, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, we literally have about 2 to 3 weeks to change the things around. Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I know, right? It's only
I'm
just
not
a few
freaking
weeks.
out at all.
We really need to.
Yeah.
We really need to start.
The timeline is very
acting.
short, and that's actually, people need to understand that's part of their strategy. So it's very quick. They're trying to rush this bill in at the very last minute, at the end of the legislative season in California. And so that's why, as much as we can, we want to get the word out that this is happening so people understand. It's like, it's very, very, very fast. So before we know it, it could just be a few days from now and it's heard in the first committee and then it's read. And so it has not been passed yet. It's all just in the beginning stages, but if it does, it could happen very quickly. So people need to be ready.
And that's why you guys are organizing those protests all over Los Angeles, so that more people show up and actually, we can have a say. We can, all gather together as community and say, no, we are not in agreement with the psychopathic laws you are creating when you're gathering together. I don't know what you are on or what you're eating or drinking there, but for someone to come up with those types of laws and regulations where you cannot go and enter a facility if you don't have a vaccination passport.
Right, this is medical apartheid. If people haven't heard that word before, this is segregation, but it's medical apartheid. It's literally taking normal, healthy, fantastic human beings and trying to opt them out of society where you can't access society. And that's why this issue has to be bigger than any one person or any one way that typically divides people. We have to come together. This is big. This is about all of us.
In a military term, there is a called gray operation, which it talks about this. It's basically psychological terrorism.
Oh.
Terrorize somebody mentally until they accept it and they become servants of the system.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is basically they're trying to create a Hegelian dialectic system which exists. The person is born for the state, not for God.
Right.
That's 1984.
Right.
That's the book. That's what
right
happened.
it is.
I think you all understand more than Americans typically do, what this looks like. And I think if people could understand, a lot of friends of ours from European countries, Croatia, other places, like, wake up, Americans. This is so serious. And in Europe, they're taking it to the streets. There are millions of people protesting in France and the UK, right? And it's because they understand something that maybe traditionally Americans don't yet, which is they understand dictatorships and communism, and they understand what it's like to have the government being oppressing the people to these types of situations. So we've got to wake up.
And one thing I've noticed, especially living in LA and being around Armenian communities, the men are men. They're not, unfortunately, in this country, growing up in America, between all the entertainment and the propaganda and everything, in my generation, I'm 43, so my generation and down, I was too young for Desert Storm 1. I was too old for Desert Storm 2. We haven't had a fight or anything real conflict to show any sort of leadership or anything. And the way society has been manipulating men, it's become you wear the mask and you get the shot to show that you're being part of the community and you're doing the thing, when the absolute opposite is what you should be doing.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, I see big muscular guys wearing a mask in a grocery store.
I'm going to explain why this is happening. Is because there's such a, it's very similar to what is called a Thatcher's effect. So I'm going to show this to our audience. If you look at this picture right now, what do you see? Like, what do you guys see?
An upside down woman.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Beautiful
She's
eyes.
pretty,
and-
right?
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay.
Proportions.
So when I turn the picture around, what do you see now?
I see Nancy Pelosi after a weekend in Reno.
Right.
So this is what is called
With the lips.
Thatcher's effect. And what that is, it's a flaw in our brain, how we are processing information, what we see, right? It's very similar to this. So basically, when I turn the upside down picture, you see eyes, you see lips. It's like you see a doctor, like all the separate body parts you can see, right, on the face. Facial features, I mean. Lips, for example, doctors, they're supposed to be treating people, right? Eyes, politicians, government, they're supposed to be making the laws that are protecting us, right? But everything works and makes sense when you look separately. But in reality, our brain is not able to see the real picture, which means that right now we don't have really representation among those people who are creating those laws, like vaccine passports. We don't have representation among people, the doctors who gave an oath, but they're silent right now. They know what's going on, but they're silent and they're not speaking up because whether they're afraid or, but what our community is seeing, the reason why they're not showing up on those protests is because they're programmed to see and to remember professions such as doctors and governors and politicians as somebody they can trust. But in reality, if we really learn to not to look at separate parts, but actually to look at the whole picture and put two and two together, and we will be able to understand and to see that what is happening right now they're not decisions that are made to the benefit of humanity. And I'm talking about humanity here. This is not just America. I have friends in Russia, in Lithuania, Latvia, and they are organizing the same protests. French are doing the same thing.
Yes.
Europe, Italia burned their passports. I don't know if you've seen that.
That made me cry.
I haven't seen that one
made
yet.
you cry, yeah.
Do you know what the number 3 cause of death is in America? Doctors messing up.
Really?
Cancer and heart disease, they love 1 and 2. Number 3 is our medical
What appalls
practices
me,
messing up.
What appalls me is when they come up after a mistake that they did with any of the medication and say, oops, sorry, forgive us.
You know what? That actually reminds me of something I think that's important to bring out in this conversation is that legal liability, right? They're actually all of the legal recourses that you typically have if something happens with the COVID shot or if you're in this vaccine passport, all of those legal rights and protection have been removed.
Right.
Exactly.
So you can't sue the manufacturer if you get hurt or a family member gets hurt. So these same products are the things that are being pushed as a mandate and requirement in these vaccine verification system, but yet you can't even hold them liable or accountable if something hurts you.
That
1986.
already should be like a wake-up call.
Right.
It's a huge red flag. When before they introduced the vaccine, they completely bring the immunity towards people who are vaccinating.
Yeah.
Okay, so that should be like, this is common sense, really,
Common sense.
when you think about it.
And may I say something
Yeah.
real quick about these companies? So you're 4 major vaccine companies, right? Can anyone name anything any of these drug companies have done that's been beneficial? And don't say the Viagra pill. Pfizer is known for their lawsuits. They just paid out over $2 billion on Lipitor. They've also paid out over $2 billion on fraudulent records and shredding things. AstraZeneca is called the clot shot. It's been removed in over 20 countries.
Exactly.
Johnson & Johnson knowingly put asbestos in baby powder. They gave children cancer, and that got passed by the FDA. They also just had all their sunscreens removed because they cause cancer. Oh, they also sell all the opium out of West Africa to Purdue and are the leading causes of the opioid epidemic. They're not so good. Moderna is a chemotherapy company. You wouldn't take chemotherapy if you didn't have cancer, right? It's spearheaded by Bill Gates. His other investments are cigarettes, oil, technology, and Monsanto that's poisoning the ground. What if any of this says I'm trying to help you and keep you healthy? Why would I trust any one of these companies?
But then they're presenting it as a savior, as a miracle pill to the humanity. And this is where we need to start really asking a question. If you are a savior, you need to have a reputation. And what kind of reputation you have, I think Jason clearly described.
I learned the scientific method, I believe, in 7th grade. And part of it is always questioning your hypothesis and retesting and retesting. This all trust the science is not following any proper scientific method, starting with the isolation of the virus. It's never been isolated. That's the first thing you do.
Not a single peer-reviewed article. I know I'm finishing up my dissertation. Peer-reviewed articles are part of every science. This whole game of corona, and corona exists, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I'm just saying the way they're handling it, that the way they're bringing in the solution, miracle pill with miracle injection, at this point, a vaccine, has not a single peer-reviewed article. And that is already a good enough reason for us not to allow that to enter our body.
Red flag.
Exactly, because once you get it in, you cannot get rid of it. It's going to be in your system, exactly.
Բացատրեմ մի քանի խոսք, շատ կարևոր է այս մասը, որ երիտասարդը իր բացատրության մեջ տվավ, այդ բոլոր կամպանիները, որ vaccination-ը գուտան եւ vaccine կամպանիները, որևէ մեկը live reputation չունի։ Բոլորն ալ լոսուտեր եղած են, բոլորի medication-ները անցյալի վրա, բոլորի վրա մահեր եղած են, բոլորն ալ մեծ լոսուտեր ունեցել իրենց վրա, so ինչպես կրնանք փաստել, ասոնք իրական օգուտ է ժողովրդին փաստորեն։ So եւ երկրորդը պետք է գիտնանք, որ եթե որևէ մեկը վնասվի այս վակցիններով, չի գնար կառավարության թեմ կամ կամպանիի թեմ ցույց ստատ բանալ, լոսուտ չի գնար բանալ, ադիգա take out եղել է։ So փաստորեն experiment կնենք որ ժողովրդի վրա, որում մեջ չես կրնա նույնիսկ թատ բանալ մեկում վրա։
Right. And so basically, we really don't have time. It's maximum up to 3 weeks to really make our point, heard, our voices heard. So, Jason, when is the next protest?
We have one coming up this Sunday in Santa Monica, right in front of the pier on like the Grassy Park area. That starts at noon. I'm also involved in putting one together September 18th. That'll be downtown at City Hall. There's one in Sacramento, September 8th. That's a very big one. I believe that's opposing
the bill that
AB 455.
So first one was this Saturday?
this Sunday.
The Sunday in
noon.
Santa Monica, right?
This Sunday at
In front of the
noon.
pier.
In front of the pier. We have some great guest speakers, people running for governor, people running for Congress, myself.
Are you running for Congress? Because I would want to give you my vote.
I'm running for my life right now. Well, fighting for my life.
Right.
But no, I've been getting asked, but I have to see if we make it through. I have a feeling we might see each other in a FEMA camp if we don't win soon.
We probably will be neighbors there.
I'm going to go on the side of I don't think we're going to be in any kind of camps, because I think that the people are going to really wake up. Yes. And I think that's what needs to happen, is that if people hear what's really happening and they see it for what it is, people are going to show up. That's been my experience, is people are showing up.
And when you have a beautiful community like the Armenian community who does know how to unite, because you guys put family first, you guys, have such a bond. Like if we got that community to combine with these other communities, we could really make a wonderful society, and LA could be the California dream that we came here for.
So Armenians like to travel in groups with our children,
Yeah.
grandparents, great-grandparents. So can we bring all of them to the protest? And
Absolutely.
enjoy whatever you guys are having? Because I know it's very,
Yes.
it's extremely peaceful, and there's a lot of culture, and I know there's like food and like, you know, you can really mingle and connect and find your own tribe and exchange resources, which is great, right?
Yeah.
Right, and organizing, and you know, there's music, and you know, and I have to say something very quickly. It's something that's just meaningful to me about people getting involved in this. I have a very, very good friend who actually, she passed away from cancer several months ago, but her way of engaging on this was she showed up to everything. She was at the rallies, she was at all the different ones. She put her time, her money, her energy, her resources into this constantly. She like literally gave everything that she had. And on one of my birthdays a little over a year ago, she gave me something that really has impacted me like permanently on how to be in this, you know, how to fight this. And I always wear it whenever I'm doing like an interview or something, but it says, it's very simple. It says, a woman's place is in the revolution.
Oh, I love that.
You know, and it's like, you know, that is where we need to be.
Do you feel out of place, Jason?
Right? Oh, I'm meant to, right?
No, I mean, that's a beautiful thing.
is,
It's just,
right?
as a man, I just feel society has fallen so far that yes, this exists.
Right. Women
That's
need to
how
be
that's
in the
how
revolution.
embarrassed I am as a man when you consider all the atrocities going on with women and children now that women have to take. I see more strong women now, and it's beautiful. But I sit there and I'm just like, why is there not a guy helping her? I mean, I've seen women kicked out of sporting events because they're not wearing masks, and people just sit there and do nothing, or kicked out of a PTA meeting and people sit there and do nothing, and it just eeks me.
Jason, I think you're Armenian, you just don't know it.
I get that with every, thank you. I don't really know everything I am. My 23andMe got a lot of lines going on.
I think there are a lot of men showing up. You know, I have an amazing husband who, he doesn't just support me, he's right there at the front lines fighting for freedom as well. And there are a lot. It's just that we need more. You know, we need everybody to be doing their part.
We need to clone you guys as women and as men and him and everyone. Yes, absolutely. Any servant leader. And what is it, servant? You serve by leading and you lead by serving. Service comes first. We really need to bring our communities, Armenian communities, Persian communities, Russian communities, because we live in the area of Hollywood. This is the community here.
All the
You're exactly
sacrifices that
right.
your ancestors did to
Right.
get here, everything that my
Right.
ancestors did to get me here, done.
Done.
It'd be like, handing over a country to like a terrorist organization.
Yeah, it's like why we moved anyway. We could have stayed in a communist regime. We could have stayed in the middle of that massacre in Azerbaijan, or what's the point? We came here to experience a country that offers you to have human rights.
Yeah.
And what do we get right now? I actually found something.
Everybody has to lay everything on the line right now. In my opinion,
Yeah.
people are, please forgive me for saying it this way, but people are hiding behind exemptions. Okay, people are getting religious exemptions and medical exemptions, and I understand why, because you're trying to feed your family. That's what people, they think they don't have a choice, they have to get an exemption so they don't have to take the shot, and that's how you're feeding your family. But from my experience working in this field and understanding what laws get passed and what happens with exemptions, this is the way they boil the frog, where you think you're safe with exemptions, but they have an expiration date. And I promise you, any exemption people are getting right now will have an expiration date in some way, even though they shouldn't. Of course, they shouldn't. You should be able to have exemptions for your religion, disability, medical, all that. You should be able to have that protection, but that's why it's a false sense of security right now to rely on that. And people have to understand that so that you do lay everything on the line right now, because right now literally is the fight. What's happening in LA, what's happening with this bill in California that can impact 40 million people, this is the time to lay everything on the line.
It's not only it's a false security, it's a double false security,
Yes.
because exemptions are data. They have the data of
correct.
people who are exempted, and guess what they're going to do with this
Punish
people? They already know.
Yeah, they're
Who's
not going to let a
refusing.
separate society exist.
I bet the number of exemptions and number of FEMA camps will probably be somewhere
Right.
similar.
They
too.
actually already had a cybersecurity attack on one of the colleges. I believe it was in California. Don't quote me on that. But it was specifically finding out what
I
the
read
religious
about that.
exemptions
I
were.
think, UC Santa Barbara?
Yeah, the kids
I
that
think so.
had exemptions opting out, that was the data that was taken with
away,
the
yes.
security
Yes.
breach. So people have got to understand this is lay it all on the line, show up, participate,
Right. You guys are not safe with exemptions, and
Right.
maybe you want to translate this so
Yes.
that Armenians know, because
Yes.
And when you see
Go ahead.
Սիրելի արնագիստներ, հիմա խոսվի որ exemption-ներ կա, այսինքն անոնք որ գսեն քրիստոնեան կամ medical issue-ներ ունին, գրնան չառնել vaccine-ը, բայց ադիգա պիտի լա ժամանակավոր, սա հիշեցեք։ Ադի իրենք առաջինը data կհավաքեն որ, երկրորդը կպատրաստեն որ ուրիշ բանի, որ կարողանան այդ exemption-ները հանեն։ Մենք չենք գիտեր, բայց գիտենք մեկ բան, որ ժամանակը պիտի կա, պիտի ասեմ, որ ամբողջ exempt եղածները պետք է զատվին այս քաղաքեն, ուրիշ տեղ երթան, այդ օրն աբիդի կա։ So, ինչ պետք է անենք։ Պետք չէ նստենք քնանանք, որովհետև մենք ազատեցանք exemption-ով։ Սա ամենը խաղ է։ Պետք է բոլորով միանանք, բայկարինք, ասոնց դեմ։ Մեկ խոսքով բայկարինք, այո։ Իրենց դուներուն արչև, անհնազանդ լալով իրենց խոսքերուն, իրենց mandatory issue-ներուն բայկարելով, անոր վակցին եղել եւ չեղած բոլոր իրար հետ, այսինքն, որով հիշեցեք մեկ բան, անոր պատվաստված է, եթե segregate եղան, հաջորդ ուտում բիդլաս։ Ասիկա global plan է, որ global Rome-ը որոշեր է, Vatican-ը որոշեր է, World Economic Forum-ը որոշեր է եւ հազարավոր տարիներ եկած, որ աշխարհը պետք է depopulate անեն։ 7.5 միլիարդը պետք է դարձնեն 500,000-ի, 500 միլիոնի կամ 1 միլիարդի։ So ասիկա այդ plan-ն է մեկ խոսքով։ Ամեն ինչ պիտեն որ կարողանան depopulate անեն աշխարհը։ Մենք չենք կրնար segregate լալով ապրիլ, մենք պետք է իրար հետ միանանք եւ բայկարենք։ Եթե մեկը չսկարգոր վստահ եւ գուզեգոր պատվաստվել խնդիր չէ, բայց ազատության համար պետք է բայկարիս ուրիշներու համար, որով այդտեղը չի վերջանալ խնդիրը։
Right. Someone wrote, I was once willing to give my life for what I believed this country stood for. Today, I'd give my life to protect my family from what this country has become.
Wow.
It's pretty powerful. And I think that's exactly what we're doing right now. We're trying to make sure that this country will not become what it's becoming, pretty much. We're trying to kind of interfere with that process. And I'm very happy that we started this program with a prayer today, because we can do it with God. Okay, and this is not just a human fight, human against human. This is a supernatural fight, because the forces that are involved, the people who are allowing themselves to create that another type of human with those vaccinations, they're pretty much playing God. They're
Transhumanism.
Yes, they're
That's
saying
what
that
it
I'm
is.
God, and we need, as a community, and Armenians is the first country that actually accepted Christianity in the world. Vatican accepted Christianity after us, right?
Yes.
So we're really big on our faith. We died for our faith. We are, and we need to right now exercise our faith, not just wearing the cross, not just saying that I'm a first Christian, country, but actually exercising the values. And the value says to come and join other servant leaders who are fighting for your children, for your families. We are there. I know that I'm going to be there at the protest, and I have been, and Petros, you were as well. But and whoever wants to join us from the community will be waiting for you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And you wanted to
Yeah,
add
I wanted to
something.
say one thing real quick too. It's just the truth is that we need every single person to show up. Not any one person can do this. I'm just one person. Jason,
I'm a comedian.
you're like 3 people, right?
Yeah.
We're just.
Well, I'm a Gemini.
We have to have. We need you. We need every person to be there. And I don't know, is it okay for people to donate to
Absolutely.
the...
You're fighting for our rights. Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yes. So if people, one of the things we really want to do with donations is get the word out and the message on the airways. We want to have commercials. We want to show people what's really happening. But we need funds to do that. So if people go to our PERK website, so www.perk-group, which is group.com, and then go to the donate. There's also a section that talks about vaccine passports. There's a specific fundraiser we're doing on this issue to raise funds to fight it for you, for people, for our children. So we really could use those donations to help us get the message out on the airways.
Ուրեմն սիրելիներ, բոլորս բարդացրված ենք այս պայքարին մասնակցելու, վակցինացիոնը չէ խնդրը, խնդիրը total control-ն է, որ գուզենք որ քու ազատ միտքդ, ազատ անկախությունդ, քու ազատ վարվելագերբդ, մտածելագերբդ ցերկեդարնեն եւ իրենք ստացնեն guess robot, guess smart, transhumanism. Այսօր եթե վգա Fourth Industrial Revolution, որ բիդանի մարդոց թեվի transhumanism-ի, լրիվ restructuring society. Ասիկա բատվաստումը չէ միայն, բատվաստումը արիթմն է իրենք գործածեն, որ բիտ շարունակեն ադիգա։ Մեմի իրենք հաջողացան։ Ադոր համար մենք բոլորը պետք է ամերիկացիներուն հետ, բոլոր հայերով մասնակցենք այս բոլոր ցույցերուն, փողոքներուն եւ անշուշտ եթե գրնակ նույնիսկ նվիրատվություն տակ այս օրգանիզացիաներուն, որոնք գաշխատին որ մարդկության համար, մարդկության ազատության համար։
Well, I think we are about to end today's interview, and thank you so much for coming. We are so grateful from the Armenian community. We're so grateful to have warriors like you fighting for us, for all of us, for our children, for our families in the battlefield, and just thank you for your hearts.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for letting us be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Petros.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's an honor.